I am here with Natasha Reilly of Creative Nachos for the next Holistic Creative Chat. Thank you, Tosh, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love being here.
Absolutely. All right. So Tosh,
Yes.
for these talks, we're talking about living with creative practice and integrating creative practice into the way that we see our lives and what have you. So why don't we just start with you telling us a little bit about what you do as an artist and writer and mother and fabulous wife I saw on your on your site. I love that. So tell us about what you do and how you be.
Let's see. Okay, we'll start with the mom part because that's a pretty big part.
Yeah.
I specifically started working creatively at home because I wanted to be around my kids when they were little. I've got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, both going on 40, and they bring so much joy to my life. They allow me to see things in a completely different way. I'm very grateful for them, for all the craziness that they bring and how nuts they can make me. They make me look at the world again and again with fresh eyes. I'm very thankful for that. I think that I, as a person, need that in my life. And so creatively, what I started doing was when my daughter was born, I had been a director of marketing and fundraising for a nonprofit, and I stepped back from that position and I decided that I was going to try to do what I really had always wanted to do, was to just live a different creative lifestyle. I like making things, and I think it's taken me, of course, of 7 years, a lot of evolutions to get to where I am right now, which is I started off making greeting cards. Because I just really needed my hands to be doing something and making something, and I needed color in my world. And I developed a site that it was a creative challenge for people every week, and I met wonderful people and artists who really, I just felt like doors just kept opening to things I could try to do and try to make. And somewhere along the line, there was a course I was teaching. Oh, it was writing. People came and asked if I would teach this writing course, which writing is my background. That was how it all began for me. It was, I went to school for it, I got my degrees in it, and I sort of was like, oh, I'm going to write a book. And it's taken a lot of journeys with that. I've published poetry, I've published articles, I've done all that stuff. And I have, in fact, I did a NaNoWriMo, that National Writing in a month. I did a book in a month because I just thought, I'm going to just try it. And I still have it. And I have, right now, I'm in an interesting place because I was approached to help to work on a children's book, which that's been coming up again and again and again and again and again and again. I figured, how much longer can I ignore this?
Yeah.
So I'm sort of stepping into that process. And for me, it's opening up a whole new avenue, much like Connie with painting opened up avenues, and I hadn't thought about either. So it has been this continual journey. And I realized I had really struggled with, well, I'm a writer, right? And that's what I do. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to write a book, and I had a very, set plan for what I was going to do. And I am right now in the biggest throes of, what is that? Getting rid of the life you thought you would have so that you can live the life you're supposed to live.
Yes.
And that is exactly where I am in my process, just letting go of things that I have held on to for far too long, thinking, well, this is what I'm going to do. And whenever something else comes up, I'm like, well, that's great.
Yeah.
I have to turn away from that because it's not part of the plan. And instead saying, maybe this wasn't the plan. Maybe this is where I'm supposed to go. Yeah. And it's exciting and scary and wonderful at the exact same time. So that's where I am in my creative practice. And as far as wife, that just cracks me up that I wrote that on my site.
I love it. I am too.
Yes, right? Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
My husband is, one of my best friends, and we have such fun together. So, and he's really supportive of my creativity and bringing it to our children and so on and so forth. So there is really a sort of, it's flowing out, which is a really cool thing.
It's really wonderful to have somebody, to have that in your your life. Not everybody has that, but to have somebody who's supportive of the transformation of all of it too, because
Yeah.
you're going through a lot of changes and a lot of shifting your perspective on how you see what it is that you do and what you're here to do. And I thought of the John Lennon quote, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
so many times that has come back to me too. Like I'm already doing these things that I'm supposed to be doing and that are already here, and here I am like trying to force some other thing to happen,
Yes.
for whatever
Yes.
reason. And
Exactly.
yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
And I love that the children book thing is coming up for you. I mean, I think of you as like the poet of play, like in the way that you paint and the way that you show up, the way you like weave your words together. It's just so often so joyful. Even when you're dealing with, maybe even heavier topics to some degree, you have this way of spinning it that is just like, yes, this is life, and it's like, not like this is life, but like this is, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I'm not the poet of play. so, so I think that's wonderful that you're moving in that direction, and there's opportunities that are, little synchronicities for you for that as well.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that too, because I think that the play thing was something I resisted for a really long time. I actually
Mm-hmm.
didn't embrace that. That was not something that I was like, oh, I love the fact that's a part of me. I hated it.
Yeah. It's
I
hard
was like,
work
oh,
for some of
play, and
us.
I like.
It is.
I was like, I felt immature. I felt,
Yeah.
oh God, I had such terrible negative associations with play. And
Yeah.
when I finally gave into it, it was weird because what it did was it actually allowed me to approach some of the heavier topics in my life that I had shut a door on and sort of tried to bury.
Yes.
Um, it
Yes.
forced them to come to the surface, and what it gave me the ability to be able to deal with that. And I don't think I
Yes.
would have if I had still kept fighting everything. I mean, I was like a prize fighter in my own body all the time. Like,
Yes.
no, 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 and no. Like, this is not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be something else.
Right. And
And
it's so different than trying to talk through it, or even trying to put it word to page to work through that
yes,
stuff. But to come at it from that angle of play and how it just organically can then rise up in you, and the release and the transformation of those things begins to happen. You put that beautifully, because that's what I find too. And play is something I've had to work at, for sure. And have found it. And I mean, that's why I'm so passionate about this particular notion of art being, a potential healing ground, is that it is a way to work through that which we can't express in other ways.
yes,
And that we do that by tapping into the joy, by tapping into the places that are healed already, or that are well, or that never needed healing, the places that were whole to begin with.
yes,
And that know what play is and how to
yes,
get there and be free and light and do cartwheels, right?
yes,
so,
yes.
so, yeah, you put that beautifully. Thank you. That really speaks to my process too, and I think a lot of people who have the courage to begin a creative practice, whether it's painting or a more playful way of writing or shooting with their camera or what have you, that once you actually do it, you have to show up to it. You begin to feel that these other things that you thought you really had to like put a lot of effort into are shifting for you,
Yes.
like in the current, underneath the work, where you're
Yes.
following your joy. So
It's one of those moments where you feel like you'll do something and it feels easy, and you think to yourself, "Oh, that should have been so much harder.
yes,
Why am I not working so much harder at that?" And it's just like, it's it's that misconception that if it comes easy, it doesn't have meaning.
yeah,
I think, and a lot
no
of
pain,
people
no
do.
gain. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And it's false because I think the hardest part is, I think the hardest part is accepting yourself. I really do. I think that as we
yes.
become adults, I watch my children, and I keep thinking about where is that moment where we question ourselves and we say, that person's idea of what my story should be is right. I need to follow that because
Yeah.
what I think about myself isn't. Because the moment as adults that, and not everybody gets a chance to, but when you get a chance to step back into yourself,
Yeah.
and you're like, wow, this feels easy, it must be wrong. It's like, no, 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 no. You've done the really, 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 really hard work to get there. Embrace this,
Yeah.
because now you'll take this and go forward and face whatever's coming.
Yeah.
But it's such our society has a very strange idea of what it means to to be who you are and also to live a really authentic life.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many layers for us to peel back,
Yeah.
or to shed, I guess,
Yeah.
to kind of get back to that root of what we are. And they say, like if you are wondering what your purpose is, or all this kind of stuff, they often say, like, think back to what you loved to do as a child,
Yes.
And that's a really potent place to begin, I find, too.
Yeah.
And what just came naturally to you? What did you cling to, and
Right.
yeah, I know for me, like, you're a writer, you'll appreciate this. My mom says I used to carry around a little pocketbook, and I always had a paper and a pen, even before I could write. Like, I had to document things. So I had ideas.
Things were happening.
Yeah.
You had something to tell the world. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I vividly remember this. I had a big bureau in my room, and I would pull it out, like, when nobody was, around. And I would go behind it, and I had this book, Sleeping Beauty, and I would draw pictures all over my wall back there now. It was all like, what do you call it, wallpaper. But I drew whole scenes, and I had the characters, and I had a land back there.
Yes.
And I would push my dresser back, and nobody would see it. Well, unfortunately, one time I left it open when I left my room.
Yeah.
And my parents found it, and I got in so much trouble. Oh, my God. And I never did that again. But I realized, looking forward, and this is not too long ago, I was having this conversation with a friend. I was like, it came out everywhere else. I would write, I had, remember the ripped jeans, like growing up, knees? I would write underneath, inside on my skin, like poems would be under my skin, under my ripped jeans. I would write on my sneakers, park benches. Like, so it always was coming out somewhere. It was where it's supposed to be.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
But it was words and images, and I realized that's where my heart is. Those are the two things that I bring together that I just have fun with.
And I think that, even though our culture tries, and sometimes it's successful, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people who have lost touch with it, but I think in some ways we can't really suppress that piece of us completely that, needs to be expressed. It does come out in other ways, and sometimes unhealthy ways, if we don't have a good outlet. But I love that, like, you found other ways and other places, even your own body, because, what are they going to tell you? You can't do that,
Right.
They ain't going to know.
Nobody can see it.
That's right. It's mine. My space. I love that. Oh, so good.
I recently went to a friend's birthday, and we danced for hours and hours at this party, and then afterwards went back to her house, and it was as though her house was turned into a club. Like, literally, somebody started music, and everybody just kept dancing, and it was one of those. I have the greatest pictures of people with their hands in the air, eyes closed, like singing at the top of their lungs. We found songs we haven't heard in years.
Aww.
I mean, we always have that. It's just how it's going to come out. Yeah. And who's going to say, it's okay, bring that out, let's play. Like, let's go.
Like, turn the music on, let's keep this energy alive. That creative energy, that freedom of energy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. That integration piece is so important. And that's, that's partially what prompted, actually, the invitation to have you come chat here was we had some behind the scenes kind of email chats about this idea of, like, virtual space in real time, and this real pull to move into, how can we bring and facilitate and plant the seeds of creative practice integration with our communities and our families, which is obviously, you do that consciously with your family. But I wondered if you could speak a little bit to that understanding inside of you and a little bit of that process.
It was really interesting because, for a solid 2 years, my living situation, we were we were living with family. We didn't have a full-time home of our own, and we were working towards that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my life there were felt like a lot of boundaries on my life. So I had to keep the creativity going with my kids, but I really needed to fill my own well, and I was doing that online. So I was really going back and forth online. That was the space for me that I was most comfortable in being myself and sharing and learning. And when we moved into our own home, things started to expand. For the first time, I felt like there was space. Yeah. And as we moved into a whole new community where we knew no one. Mm-hmm. And so there was this, all of a sudden, my daughter was going to school. It was time for me to get to know the people in my community. So I was really having a tough time balancing being online and being present, in my day-to-day life. And I stepped offline for a while, which became a long while, and it was really scary at first. I was terrified. I just thought people are going to forget about me. The world moves too fast. It's going to go by. I will be buried over. It was really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because I was leaving one world where I was very comfortable, and I was going into a new world where I was super uncomfortable, and I was caught in between, feeling like I was lost, is what it
Yeah.
felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now, in the last, I would probably say 6 months, that, or longer than that. In September, a mom had approached me and asked me if I'd start an after-school art program for kids, younger kids,
Mm-hmm.
which I was so excited about, because I had planned one out and then thought, I don't know enough people that I could do this, so I put it away. And so to be asked, I was like, wait, yeah, sure, I got something I can show you.
Yeah.
And I was nervous as could be, but it was great to step into a studio and we started first in my house and moved to a studio. Like, it was great to step into this space and have these imaginative little kids doing art, and that's where it started. And I started to think about, and I have been thinking about this a lot, how utilizing the internet, the incredible people, the artists I've met that are just amazing, like yourself, how do we have this resource at our fingertips, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is the first time in history that we are able to reach across the globe in absolutely no time. How do we connect these lives that might not otherwise meet?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways I did it with my class was I had that incredible project where the artists were creating from what the kids created. So here was a conversation, right, going on. That it was both letters, words, art. It was all of that. But it connected not only lives that would never have met each other otherwise, it connected people of different ages. Because I think that there is the ability to do that too. We have a lot of people who are incredible artists and writers and photographers who are really embracing that now, later on in their life, when they went through a period of maybe not having done that. And you have kids who are coming up who are, school's great, but it can get very, this is what you need to do. And I think that we need more art in schools. I think we need more art overall. And we need to tell these kids, you can make a living doing your art. And that doesn't mean that it's just painting or drawing or writing. It could mean anything that you're bringing to whatever profession you love. And more creative thinking. We talk about, as a nation, we talk about needing more innovation. They're bringing poets and writers into major corporations to inspire the staff. Well, that's got to start younger, because if instead of saying this is what you need to do, we need to be saying to kids, I'm going to put this in front of you, and I'm going to say, let's find a creative way to do this. Let's find a creative way to create this project. I want to see how you think about it. I want to know your thoughts.
What do you see here?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we're not tapping into the way that we could, and really we could be building communities that have the resources would be unbelievable back and forth. You have people who would say, your kids in your class, do they have enough paper? I want to send like, it opens up the heart for people. I think that it really brings their humanity to life, and and they want to connect. So it's, for me right now, it's looking at these two things and trying to do more projects that incorporate this world that I'm living in, that's my day to day, but the amazing people that I've met. You children have to meet these people and see what's going on, and vice versa. How we can inspire each other is just, there is no limit to how we can inspire each other.
Oh, I love that. It's so beautiful. And like you said, it really touches on this core piece in humanity. And I think that that core piece has something to do with, we all have this innate desire. We want to feel like we have a contribution, like we have an offering in who we are. That we don't have to force it, again, into some systematic way or some boxed in way of being or thinking, or some monotonous, same thing over and over, which a lot of jobs are, unfortunately, and to have that notion, just some way that people can tap into their creativity and feel that it's welcome too, that their contribution and offering, that there's place for it, that there's space for it. I love that. Really trying to bring that into to children, like you're saying, I think is really the crux of where we're at.
It's so interesting, because I grew up not always feeling like it, but there were definitely times in my life that I felt as though there was not enough space in the world for my voice. There was already, well, something like that had already been written, or something like that had already been said. So really, why would I do it?
Yes.
Why? What did I have to add to the conversation? And perhaps that's another thing. I didn't look at it as a conversation. I looked at it as a world where some people went out and did what they did, and those were the special people that got to do everything from making movies to writing books, and then there were the rest of us who did, other kinds of jobs, but it wasn't, we weren't doing anything like that. And I think that that's what's been such a huge lesson for me. But to see also is that our voices are needed, because what was that? There's that quote about nothing new has ever been,
Yes.
there's nothing new you can ever, well, the conversation is new. So each time you could have the same conversation 100 times with 100 different people, and you're going to come away with 100 different ways of seeing things.
Yes.
If you allow yourself to see the person before you, and to let yourself be seen.
Yes.
And I saw that with the kids in my class, where I would have some, I'm not a huge fan of taking something, making it in front of them and saying, here, make this. Mm-hmm. I will start something, and then I want them to use their creative vision to bring it to life. Mm-hmm. And so I had some kids who would get really panicked. And one who filled up with tears at one point. She was like, I don't know what to do. I need you to tell me what to do. And I was thinking, that's exactly the thing. It's like, no, you don't. Inside you know what to do, and I'm going to show you that. And we go through, like, it's okay to make mistakes and have a beautiful oops. It's okay to not know what to do and to feel like you messed it up, because you might find something even more incredible in the process. Yeah. And it's that allowing her to trust herself, create, and then allow herself to be seen. Yeah. A lot of it was, I don't want to show, this might be wrong, so I don't want to show you. Mm-hmm. But no, you have this voice, and I want to see what it is. Right. Because I might be like, that's awesome, I want to try that. Mm-hmm. And that became a big thing in teaching, and was that wanting to see these kids for who they are.
Absolutely. And what you're doing there too, like, I just got chills, because you're really working with creating space and encouragement to build that vulnerability muscle that, that we all know with the Brene Brown talk and all that stuff, how very important that is, to move us out of a sense of shame and into a sense of being fully in our truth and realizing who we are, and in relationship with people, that we have to build that muscle. And in order to be able to say, here, I have this idea, this contribution, I'm going to speak up, and I'm going to verbalize it, I'm going to say it, even if maybe it's not accepted into a project or what have you, but it becomes part of it. And the piece you said about the conversations over and over again, I just love that, because it's like we might sometimes feel like it's the conversations over and over again, and it can be, but it's also like every time we have that conversation, that here I get all woo-woo on you, but hear that energy gets raised again. And what that does is that it moves us closer to activating the meaning of those conversations into our choices and our days and what we're doing and how we're engaging,
Yes. So, absolutely. Yes. So yeah, good. I think it changes. I think it's that thing where, if you do something as simple as you take a different route home, like you do something different, it really does open up that you'll find yourself do something else different if you continue to let yourself. Like it's the same thing. It's just keep trying. It's okay.
And it doesn't, yeah, and it's not as scary. Like, the more you shake things up and do something different, the less scary it becomes every time, because like, well, this is what we do. We shake it up, like, it's like, it's how we find things out,
Exactly.
It's more fun that way anyway, so. Oh, I love it. So what do you find in your personal writing or your personal art practice? What are some strong themes coming up for you right now?
Oh, this is so good. What a great question. For me, right this second, right in this moment, there's two themes that are coming. The first is I'm very aware that I will have an idea, and I'll love it, and I'll want to do it, and I won't do it. And I'll think about it, and I'll say I'm going to do it later, and then I don't. And so for me, it's pushing myself to, you feel it, you want to do it, go to the page and do it. And I've started to, like, for years, there was a whole project that I wanted to do where I was, like, putting the art and words and stuff, pictures I have together, like, just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
It is awesome. I literally find myself waking up excited to get up because, and at first I wasn't sure what the excitement was about. I was like, why am I so excited? And it was really so that I could play. So I was like, this is awesome. Um, and the other is letting go. And
Mm.
that is, and I have been, it has to be a year and a half, it feels like now, of letting go. Um, of reaching a place in my life where everything from relationships to habits to things that I was doing where I'm like, I just don't need those anymore. And, but finding a way, I had to find a way to both write and make a physical representation of getting rid of some things. So
Mm.
it could be a drawing that I tear up and I throw away because for the longest time I would hold everything like just in case.
Yeah.
And I've had moments where I'm like, it's okay for me to let that go.
Oh,
It could be
love that.
a picture that instead of I finished it and instead of holding on to it and making sure it's right and thinking about who in the world is going to like it, just letting it go.
Mm.
And that's another is letting go of approval, which has been, I think, the hardest. Because I think
Yeah.
for the longest time for me, approval equaled love. So it was like,
Mm.
well, if you approve of me, if you approve of the things I'm doing, and you think this is good, then that means you care about me. And it just doesn't work that way, which I
Yeah.
slowly am learning. So
Yes.
letting go of my need to, oh, well, who's going to like this? And if I create this, is this going to, and saying, I'm creating because I love it. And I really
Yes.
had fun making this, or this really meant something to me, and now I'm going to let it go. So
Mm-hmm.
I think let it go has been the the theme, the undercurrent for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
To learn how to live, which is a very strange idea to me. It just doesn't sound, letting it go in order to be able to have a more full life and make
Yes.
more mistakes.
It allows flow because
It
you're
really
making
does.
space for more to keep coming through, and you don't get
Yes.
stuck and attached with the things.
That was the thing, holding on to
Yeah.
some things. At one point, it was like, there was like stuff I was getting rid of. And I
Mm-hmm.
totally recognize whenever I do that spring cleaning, there's oftentimes it's like I'm really trying to get rid of stuff inside. I had a whole lot of stuff, like
Yeah.
baggage,
Yeah.
that I was holding on too tight. This was a part of my story, and I was like, wait a second, this is not my story. It's not who I
Yeah.
am. And I had to begin to let it go, and that was painful.
Yeah.
That was really hard
Yeah.
because you identify so strongly with it to like let it. Who am I if I let that go?
Yeah. What happens if the story's now? What happens if the
Yes,
story is now? Yeah.
yes. What
Yeah.
opportunity and just it was like opening up a window and throwing stuff out. It's
Right?
like just doing that opened up so much more space
Mm.
for other relationships to just all of a sudden come forth for opportunities for me to say, yeah, you know what? I'd rather have that light inside of me than
Yes.
those dark trunk
Yes.
suitcases I was holding on to.
And I keep
No,
moving around one room to another. Yeah.
Jesus, look at this. Full,
Oh.
there's no more room. Yeah.
So Tosh, how do you define healing today?
Healing. Oh, that's great.
Hmm.
I define it in two ways. There's two ways. The first is in my own life. Recently, when there was some upheaval and loss of a family member, it was sort of like there were ways that I would deal before that weren't. I shut a lot of stuff inside. I think that's where it started to build, you know. And now, for me, it is finding color. And I know that may
Mm.
sound crazy, but um, I will give myself a color to go and find throughout the day so that
Hmm.
I take pictures of it with my camera or I just notice it. Um, and it brings me back each time to
That's beautiful.
right where I am. That's one way. Another is these writings that I'm doing that are they're just really fun. I'll give myself a topic, something really outlandish, and make myself write about it. And what I love is that I've learned to, if like it seems like the crazier it is, the more I learn about myself.
Mm.
Because I'll put myself out into my imagination way out into something, and I write, and I will go back and read it and be like, oh my God, I see me. I see
Mm.
there's something here that I just
Yes.
hadn't noticed before, and it's great, and it feeds my other work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, meditation. I'm obsessed with meditation. It's really good, and it allows for a lot of
Hmm.
space inside now.
Yeah.
Um, the ability to, I think, for a long time, I felt a little like a flag in the wind.
Hmm.
I was really reactionary instead of like moving from a place of action for myself, and it's
Mm.
allowed me to have that distance where it's like I understand where that person is or where they're coming from or whatever. That doesn't have to affect me right now in this moment. I can still be in this space even with all the stuff
Beautiful.
going around.
Mm.
And playing is,
Hmm.
it's just one of those things that I will, we all have days. You get to the end of your day and you're like, I'm tired, I'm done, I don't want to play.
Hmm.
My kids will be like, come to the, no, we just had dinner, I just want to rest. And it's allowing myself sometimes just to sit down and draw something ridiculous, make monsters, that kind of stuff with my kids. I really dig making monsters, actually. I don't know why, but they're super fun.
You heard it here first. Healing is making monsters. Just, I love it. Oh,
They make me laugh. So
yeah.
I think those are the ways I define
I
healing.
love that because in all of those things, what I hear from you, it's like it's finding that joy in your life in little ways, whether it's a color or in a monster or by getting rid of crap out of your like it's spaciousness, and in that
Yeah.
spaciousness is where we often meet our joy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm,
I think it's the best too in the darkest moments when it's just
yes.
you just feel the heaviness on you and you feel like I either can just collapse under the weight
Yeah.
or I can find something inside that's going to help me carry this a little further till I can, cry, let it go, write it, like do what I need to do
Yeah.
to get back. Yeah.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you, Tosh, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.